Learning and development has failed to change fast enough to keep up with the modern world. We're still running things as if it was the year 2000. It isn't. The result is that we're not keeping pace, and learning and development is losing touch with the rest of the business. Most important is probably our attitude to risk. We have to be prepared to be not just early adopters of technology, but business innovators. People who come to the business saying, we've got something new to offer, something which will add to business performance. Consider how fast or slowly the learning and development department changes compared to the rest of the organization. The change grid does just that. It helps us to identify where the department fits in relation to the rest of the organization. So what happens if you are changing fast and the organization's changing fast? Well, this is what I call learning leadership. In learning leadership, the organization is up to date with how it can deliver on its promises, and the training and learning and development departments support the organization with the right services, methodologies, and technologies. That could be classroom training, and it may also include the use of tools such as wikis, blogs, social learning, communities of practice, and so on. So that's learning leadership, using the latest approaches to support the business. Yes, things go wrong, but it doesn't matter because the department and the organization are prepared to learn from it. Now, what about the diametrically opposed quadrant, where the organization is changing slowly and the learning and development department's changing slowly? Here, life seems pretty good, at least superficially. Things seem to be well because there are no challenges from outside. There are no challenges because the organization isn't changing fast enough to come up against any. Life's good until, as inevitably happens, the organization is blindsided by a change it didn't foresee and then goes bust. This is not some hypothetical situation, it's something that happens all the time. The fast-moving organizations are those like Instagram, which was sold for $1 billion, being an organization of some 12 people. Slow-moving organizations are more like Kodak, which actually invented the whole concept of personal photography, but which then had to file for voluntary bankruptcy to sustain itself because it had stuck to the old ways and hadn't changed. I call this area comfortable extinction. We adjust ourselves slowly to the changing environment until something happens. We're caught off guard, and the company and the learning development department are both out of a job. What if you and your learning and development department are changing fast, but your organization isn't? That can be immensely frustrating. I know a number of forward-thinking L&D people who have great ideas they want to move ahead with, but they can't because the organization is very set in its ways. Such organizations tend to believe that training belongs in the classroom. Now, there's nothing wrong with the classroom itself, but if everything takes place in the classroom, you're not going to change fast enough to adapt to the changing business environment. If you want to move out of that space, if you want to do new things and the organization holds you back because it's not moving fast enough, then you're in the quadrant of the unacknowledged prophet. However, my fear is that most learning and development departments that I speak to are in none of those three quarters, but in the bottom right-hand corner, where the organization is changing fast, but the department is changing slowly. That's the quarter where nobody wants to do training. That's the quarter where all the exciting stuff in learning and development is being done elsewhere. We have the sales department wanting to get information out about a new product. They find a mobile device, maybe an iPad. They put the information on that and get it out to their people. The marketing department wants to talk to its community. It sets up a wiki or a community site. The R&D department wants to spread information. They find a social networking way of doing it. All of these are really learning and development opportunities that we should be involved in, and we aren't, because we're not changing fast enough. Other people are doing it. What's the learning and development department doing? It's stuck in the training ghetto, the place where knowledge is delivered to people and they are expected to remember it, typically via training courses, often in the basement of the organization or in the porter cabin on the other side of the car park. It's called the Training Ghetto because it's different, unconnected with the rest of the business, a place where people talk about strange things using a different language that everybody else uses, And because it is different, it's seen as a cost centre, not crucial to the business, and when things get bad, it gets cut. The good news is it's not difficult to move from the training ghetto to the quadrant of learning leadership. It requires one key change, a change in attitude, that says, I'm prepared to take a risk. I'm prepared to do something that might go wrong because I know it's the right thing for the business and it's right for learning and development. This is where we should all be. We should be leading because the business needs it. If all L&D departments were in the learning leadership quadrant, we'd have a far more invigorating daily workload, sometimes more risky and challenging, but also more exciting. Organizations would be far more profitable. They'd meet their business needs faster because information would be flowing around the business faster. People would know their jobs better and be better suited to their working environment. And of course, it would be better for the economy. You might be an unacknowledged prophet. You might be in the training ghetto, or happily imagining that everything's fine in the zone of comfortable extinction. Wherever you are on the grid, consider this. If you're not a learning leader, how are you going to become one?